Hey guys, and welcome back to Baseline Full Court Press, the podcast where women's basketball gets the spotlight, the smoke, and the respect. I'm your host, Patience, and this is where we talk buzzer beaters, breakouts, and everything in between. And today's topic is going to be my top 5 underrated coaches, from WNBA to mid-major masterminds. I'll be breaking down who they are and what makes them underrated. First, let's break down what exactly an underrated coach means to me. I have 2 criteria points. Number one, being able to have a successful team without the necessary resources such as practice facilities, trainer facilities, and things that athletes have resources to help them become a better player, as well as not having access to those 5-star, 4-star recruits because their school is just simply not a big name. Second criteria for me is going to be player development. Any player that comes to your team should not leave your team the exact same way. As a coach, it is your job to develop that player and help them succeed in ways that they did not even know they were capable of. And these coaches are in no particular order, but for the first coach on my list, you may know her because she coached majority of her first season at Tennessee being pregnant, but her name is Kim Caldwell. She currently just ended her first year of being the head coach for the Tennessee Lady Vols, ending with the first year record of 24-10. Before being head coach at Tennessee, she was previously head coach at Marshall University, and that is in the Sun Belt Conference. It is a D1 school. She also managed to get Coach of the Year while coaching for Marshall University. Before Marshall University, she was head coach at Glenville State, which is her alma mater. Glenville State is a D2 university, and while Kim Caldwell was there, she did manage to win a national championship. What makes Kim Caldwell underrated is her overall record of 241 wins to only 41 losses. That is about an 87% win rate, which is phenomenal in any sport. Within just 8 seasons, that is what she has accomplished. She has a keen ability to adapt to any team that she's on, especially with Tennessee. When she came to Tennessee, there were many more seniors on her team rather than underclassmen. And mind you, this is my first impression of Kim Caldwell. I'm like, okay, she's the new coach at Tennessee. Never really heard about her before. Let's see what's happening with her. The first statement that I ever saw her put out was when everyone was saying, "Oh, yeah, she's definitely rebuilding this team. This is going to be a rebuild year," and she simply told them, "There's no such thing as a rebuild year. These players are still here. There are seniors here who have chosen to stay here for 3 years. And they also chose to stay here with knowing that a new head coach is coming in. So I'm going to do my best to do right by them and make sure they have a great season too. Although we are rebuilding, we still want to have a winning season, and that is the most important." And that really stuck out to me because a lot of coaches on a new team, they're more so thinking about the next year. Okay, this year is going to be our rebuilding year. We're going to see what we have on the team, and then we'll go from there. And next year we'll recruit who we want. No, Kim Caldwell said, "Who we have right now is who we want." And I love her for that. The majority of her success comes from being a fast paced coach who has an incredible full court defense. I want you guys to take the time out to sit down and watch Kim Caldwell's defensive setup for full court. I am talking about the most efficient full court press I've seen in a long time. And of course, another thing that makes her so great is that she coached majority of her first season with Tennessee pregnant. She had her beautiful baby and she came back a week later like nothing happened, back to business as usual. Speaking of great comebacks, that leads me to my number 2 coach, which is going to be Mark Campbell of Texas Christian University. Also known as TCU, Mark Campbell has been a coach at TCU since 2023, and before he was a coach there, they had a crazy record of 8 wins and 23 losses. And after his arrival, TCU went 16-2 in conference and 34-4 overall, leading TCU to their first Elite 8 appearance in program history. Before TCU, he was head coach at Sacramento State, who were 3-22 before his arrival, and Mark Campbell came in and coached them to a 25-win season, leading them to their first NCAA appearance in program history. Once again, he is breaking history for the teams that he has coached on. And what makes Mark Campbell so underrated is his ability to recruit. At Oregon State, he was the team's lead recruiter. He is responsible for recruiting first-round draft pick Sabrina Ionescu to go to Oregon. He also recruited Satu Sabali for Oregon, who became a number 2 draft pick. And that's not it. He also recruited number 8 draft pick Ruthie Hebert. And he was also monumental in signing Haley Van Lith to Texas Christian University this year. And as we know, Haley Van Lith did not have a great season at her last school, which was LSU. They had her in a position that she wasn't really used to. A lot of people thought she was washed up or she was done and she just didn't have the talent, which was not the case because she went to TCU and balled out under Mark Campbell. And that just shows you what a great coach and what a great program can do for you. And he also just recruited Olivia Miles to TCU from Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is a powerhouse. They have a lot going for them. They have great recruits at this moment. But somehow, Mark Campbell managed to get Olivia Miles. He really has a knack for letting players take advantage of their full potential. And speaking of full potential, this next coach has all the potential you would ever need. And that coach, ladies and gentlemen, is Tricia Cullop. She was currently named University of Miami's head coach in 2024. Before that, she was head coach at Toledo State for 16 seasons. She's definitely got some skin in the game, but I bet you haven't really heard her name before. At Toledo State, her record was 353 wins to 169 losses. She had 9 plus 20 win seasons, building Toledo State into a powerhouse franchise. And she also managed to collect 5 regular season titles, as well as Coach of the Year 6 times at Toledo State. And then she ended up transferring to University of Miami, where she didn't have a overall winning season. She is highly decorated in the mid-level MAC conference, but not so much in the mainstream media. And I feel like this switch to Miami is definitely going to give her the media attention that she deserves and also help out Miami a lot. It's a much bigger stage for her to show her player development skills, and it's an advantage to go ahead and build up her legacy. And speaking of legacies, the next coach we're talking about is somewhat of a unicorn in the WNBA world, and that is Natalie Nakase. She is the head coach of the newly expanded WNBA team, the Golden State Valkyries. Coach Nakase was previously an assistant coach with the Las Vegas Aces, as well as the Los Angeles Clippers. And she's also coached internationally, which gives her a great advantage. Her accomplishment list will be short, but that does not mean it is not mighty, because just listen to this. She had a regular season record of 23-21. Now, while that is not a winning record, to be able to win 23 games in your inaugural season is unexplainable. I don't think this has ever happened. This is like an anomaly. And she was also able to coach the Golden State Valkyries into their first playoff position, which has never been done. This is the first expansion team in the WNBA to reach the playoffs in its debut year, which I think is how she managed to pull off the Coach of the Year for 2025. With so many great coaches in the league, none of those coaches have ever been able to do such a thing. She's been underrated from the start. Taking on an expansion team is a lot of work. She had limited resources and all expectations for that team were in the ground. She's already proven that she is a strong leader. She was able to make the most of her team. And as you know, all of her players did come from other teams. And she was able to get 1 or 2 draft picks, but most of those players came from other teams. They didn't really want to go to the Golden State Valkyries, but she made it possible for them to buy into the program and actually play for something and helped build their identity much quicker than anybody thought was possible. Last but not least is going to be Karl Smesko, who is currently the head coach of the Atlanta Dream. He was hired to be the head coach of the Atlanta Dream in 2024. And before that, he was head coach at Florida Gulf Coast University, which is FGCU. He was head coach there from 2002 all the way up until 2024, holding an overall record of 611 wins to 110 losses. That is about an 85% win rate. Any coach with a win rate above 80% is great in my books because some seasons can do you bad. And while at FGCU, he collected about 14 regular season championships, 11 tournament championships, 10 NCAA tournament appearances, and 14 straight seasons with 25 plus wins. And the only team to ever have that much consistency in winning is UConn. And if you know anything about UConn and Gino, they don't play. So that tells you a lot about Karl Smesko. The Atlanta Dream went 30-14 with his first year of being their head coach, which is not bad at all. I would say he's doing the best with what he has, but
let's be fair. He has Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray on the same team, so I would say he's winning. And I want to also mention an honorable mention coach, which is going to be Sidney Johnson, coach of the Washington Mystics, because he is doing a phenomenal job with the rookies on his team. And don't forget to tune in next week. We'll be talking all things WNBA playoffs. And don't forget to follow for episodes every Thursday. See you then.